She came home without saying a word. My silent response the next day left her shattered. She left her phone in the mailbox. That's how I knew something was wrong. Lorna always kept her phone with her, even in the shower, even during arguments, even when we made love, if we still did that. But last night, it was there, face down in the dark metal box, vibrating once every few minutes. Same number, same name. Spencer puzzle piece. I didn't touch it. I couldn't. My hands were shaking too much. I closed the mailbox, walked back inside, and waited. Didn't even lock the door behind me. At 2:04 a.m., she walked in like a ghost. Not startled, not rushed, just dull, like someone had emptied her soul and left the shell to walk itself home. She looked right through me. Her eyes slid across mine like I was a painting on the wall she'd grown tired of. She didn't ask about dinner, didn't ask why I was still awake. She just walked barefoot across the kitchen tile, opened the fridge, drank orange juice straight from the bottle, and vanished down the hallway. Not a single word. I didn't follow her. I didn't say anything. I just sat there, staring at the open fridge light until it timed out and left the room cold again. The funny part? I already knew. My body knew. My stomach had been turning for weeks. There's a specific kind of silence women use when they've already decided to leave you but haven't told you yet. I'd been living in that silence. She didn't sleep in the bed. I heard the guest room door close. I wanted to go knock. Ask her who Spencer was. Ask her if she loved him. Ask her if I was really that easy to forget. But instead, I just lay there, wide awake, my arm across a cold pillow, blinking up at the ceiling fan. And the next morning, I made no scene, no yelling, no accusations. I said absolutely nothing. But what I did do was louder than anything I could have screamed, and it shattered everything. She came home without saying a word. My silent response the next day left her shattered. The first thing I did that morning was cook breakfast. I don't mean cereal or toast. I mean the breakfast. Eggs over medium, roasted cherry tomatoes, avocado fan, even fresh squeezed grapefruit juice the way she liked. I hadn't done that in almost 6 months, and I made only one plate. For her. I left it on the dining table with a linen napkin, a single daffodil in a tiny vase, and a folded note that said, "Hope you slept well." Nothing more. Then I got dressed in my nicest button-down shirt. The one she once said made me look like a man who might leave her someday. I think she meant it as a compliment. Back then, I just laughed. Now I let the irony hang in the air like smoke. When she finally emerged, barefoot and dazed, wearing one of my old hoodies like a shield, she froze in the doorway. Her eyes flicked to the table, then to me, then quickly away again, like eye contact might burn. She didn't touch the food. She didn't say thank you. She didn't even ask why I'd done it. But I watched her fingers twitch. She knew something was off. I had always been too passive, too forgiving, too afraid of pushing her away. This calmness, this eerie stillness, it unsettled her. And good. I wanted her off balance. She poured herself coffee in silence, then sat on the couch, staring blankly at her hands. I sat across from her, sipping my own cup, pretending not to see the way she kept glancing at the front door. I almost asked if she was expecting someone, but I didn't. Instead, I opened my laptop and started transferring files to a flash drive. She noticed. Her voice cracked the air like thunder after drought. "What are you doing?" I didn't look up. Just kept typing. Just cleaning up some things. She asked again, slower. "Cleaning up what?" And that's when I looked at her. Really looked. Not the woman I married, but the woman who replaced her. This colder version who smelled like department store cologne and had no idea her phone had been buzzing in the mailbox all night. I smiled. A small, tired smile. Everything that doesn't belong here anymore. She flinched, like the words had claws. And still, I didn't mention Spencer. I didn't accuse. I didn't demand an explanation. But I saw it then, the panic blooming behind her eyes. She knew I knew. She just didn't know how much I knew, or what I planned to do next. And that fear? It was only just beginning. She came home, without saying a word. My silent response the next day left her shattered. Lorna didn't eat. Not a single bite. She just sat there for nearly 15 minutes, pretending to scroll through her phone. Only it wasn't hers. Hers was still in the mailbox, and she didn't even realize it yet. She was holding my old backup phone, probably thinking I wouldn't notice. But I knew every detail. The screen was cracked in the corner. The case still had the coffee stain from last year. She wasn't even logged in. I watched her pretend. And I let her sit in that awkward theater of lies, wondering why I wasn't confronting her, why I hadn't exploded or cried or done anything she could emotionally prepare for. That's what she was waiting for, my breakdown. Something she could frame as emotional instability or manipulative guilt later when the blame shifting began. But I wasn't going to give her that. I wasn't going to make it easy. At 9:34 a.m., she stood up abruptly and said she needed to go for a walk. That was code. I knew it. Probably to call Spencer or delete messages or go scream into a pillow somewhere because I hadn't reacted the way she expected. Still, I just nodded. Need your phone? I asked quietly, without looking up. She froze in the doorway like I'd aimed a gun at her back. My phone. Her voice cracked just slightly. You left it in the mailbox. I sipped my coffee slowly. You were probably in a hurry last night. There was a long silence. Then the quiet shuffle of her turning around and leaving the room. I didn't follow. I just waited. 5 minutes later, I heard the mailbox click open, followed by a long, dragging pause. The kind of pause where someone realizes their entire secret life had been left out in the open. She was gone for almost 40 minutes after that. When she returned, her face was pale and her hands were trembling. She didn't go back to the living room. She went straight to the bedroom and closed the door. Not slammed, closed. That careful kind of closing you do when you're hoping no one will ask questions. But I wasn't done yet. While she hid inside, I packed 3 cardboard boxes. One with my clothes, one with my books, and one with every handwritten letter she ever gave me from the early days. I stacked them neatly by the door, not because I was leaving, but because I wanted her to think I was. By 1 p.m., she finally emerged again. Her eyes flicked to the boxes. You're leaving? She asked, barely above a whisper. No, I replied, without turning around, just preparing for possibilities. And then I walked into the kitchen, opened a drawer, and dropped a small key on the counter. It was the spare to the storage unit downtown. The one she didn't know I'd opened 3 weeks ago. The one already filled with photocopies, messages, call logs, a printed spreadsheet of every girl's night that didn't add up. I didn't need her to confess. I just needed her to understand that I knew. But I still wasn't going to say the words. Because now I wanted her to talk. And what she finally said next shattered everything I thought I was prepared for. She came home without saying a word. My silent response the next day left her shattered. Lorna stared at the key like it had teeth. I didn't offer an explanation. I didn't need to. She knew I was telling her. I know where the rod is buried. And worse, I'd already started digging. She picked it up slowly, like it might explode, her knuckles white, eyes darting around the kitchen as if some camera would confirm this was a nightmare she could wake from. But I said nothing. I walked past her, brushing the edge of her shoulder with mine, not out of anger, but to remind her I wasn't afraid anymore. She followed me into the hallway like a shadow that didn't know where to go. I heard her breathe in, about to say something. Maybe a lie, maybe the truth, but nothing came out. Just silence again. That heavy, suffocating kind. She retreated to the bedroom. I stayed in the hall. An hour passed. Then another. At 3:06 p.m., I heard her open the bedroom door and walk slowly toward me. Her steps were hesitant, like she was trying to remember how to walk like a wife again. Ellis, she said my name like she didn't know if she was allowed to. We should talk. I didn't look at her right away. I finished folding the shirt in my hand and placed it gently into one of the boxes. Then I turned. She wasn't crying. That's what struck me. I thought she would be. I expected it. She always cried during conflict, usually too early, usually before things even escalated. Tears were her shield. But now, dry eyes, pale face, a slight tremor in her jaw. I messed up, she said. 3 words. Flat. Robotic. I said nothing. Just watched her struggle with the silence. Her voice cracked next. It's not what you think. I smiled faintly. Then I must be thinking something very specific, and you must be very sure what that is. She winced. Okay, she muttered. Maybe it is what you think. I stayed quiet. She looked away. It just happened. It wasn't planned. It was stupid. It didn't mean anything. Which part? I asked calmly. The lying, the sneaking, or the deleting? She closed her eyes like the words stung. All of it. Good, I said, still steady. Then it should be easy to tell me everything. Her eyes snapped open, and for a moment, I saw it, the panic behind her pupils. She hadn't expected me to ask for details. She thought a vague confession would be enough. Some emotional speech, some mutual crying, and maybe a weekend apart before we talked things through. But I was past that. I wanted the surgery, not the bandage. She hesitated. Then she finally said his name. Spencer. There it was. A single word that turned the air toxic. I nodded slowly. The guy from your gym? She blinked. You knew? Of course I knew. You started wearing lipstick to yoga. She flinched like I'd slapped her. You laughed at his messages harder than at my jokes. I continued. You said his name in your sleep 2 weeks ago. You even changed your password. You thought I wouldn't notice? She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I stepped closer. I didn't say anything because I was waiting. Waiting for what? She whispered. For you to do the right thing, I said. But you never did. So I'm done waiting. And then I handed her a printed copy of the lease renewal for our apartment. Only her name was missing. I already spoke to the landlord. I'll cover the fees. Her lips parted slightly, stunned. You're kicking me out. No, I said. I'm just making space. For peace. I walked past her, heart pounding, hands ice cold, but face calm. Behind me, I heard her whisper the one word she hadn't said all night. Please. But it was too late. She came home without a word. And now she was starting to realize just how loud silence can be. She came home without saying a word. My silent response the next day left her shattered. She didn't say anything after that. Not immediately. She just stared at the lease papers like they were a foreign language, her mouth slightly open, her fingers twitching like they wanted to crumple the page, but didn't dare. I stood quietly across the room, giving her space, but not softness. I wasn't angry. I wasn't yelling. And somehow, that terrified her more. I don't have anywhere to go, she finally muttered, the edges of her voice fraying. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care. Because I had cared too much for too long. Cared through her distance. Through her secrets. Through the dozens of tiny betrayals that came before the big one. I had stayed quiet, polite, loyal, even as I felt myself dying inside. And now she was asking for grace. After months of lies wrapped in lip gloss and perfume, she tried again, this time softer. Can we just talk? That word again. Talk. As if conversation was some magical eraser for infidelity. As if syllables could reverse the nights she came home smelling like someone else's cologne, or erase the way she used to smile when she saw me, but now barely blinked. What do you want me to say? I asked, my voice flat. That it's okay? That I understand? She lowered her eyes. No, I don't expect that. I didn't think you'd handle it like this. I laughed quietly. Like what? Like an adult? Like someone who finally respects himself? Her shoulders curled slightly inward. Defensive. Not from fear, but from shame. And I almost felt something. Almost. You always said we'd get through anything, she whispered, more to herself than to me. I said we, I replied. But you made it me. She swallowed hard. Eyes glossy now, but still holding back. I could tell she didn't want to cry. Not because she didn't feel bad, but because crying would mean surrender. And she wasn't used to being the one losing control. You still love me, she said suddenly. Desperately. I know you do. I didn't deny it. That would have been a lie. Of course I did. That was the problem. If I didn't love her, this wouldn't hurt like hell. If I didn't love her, I wouldn't be standing here with a throat full of cement, pretending I was fine. But love without respect is just pain with good intentions. So I said nothing. She took a shaky step forward. It didn't mean anything, Ellis. I swear. It wasn't about him. I felt invisible. I didn't know how to tell you that. Now that stung. Invisible. I repeated. You felt invisible. Her eyes widened. She knew what she had triggered. I made you dinner even when you skipped it. I rubbed your back every time you said you were too tired to talk. I canceled a job interview because you said you had anxiety and needed me home. I bought those dumb bath bombs even though they gave me a rash, because you said they made your Sundays feel sacred. She looked down again. I never made you invisible, Lorna. You just stopped looking. The silence that followed felt bigger than the room. Bigger than the entire apartment. It felt like we were standing at the edge of something collapsing. And I think she finally realized she had built this crater with her own hands. But I wasn't done. You should go stay with him, I said, calm as ever. You already left. Your body just forgot to follow. That hit. I saw it. Like a slap made out of glass. Her lips parted in protest, but no sound came. And then, just like that, she walked toward the bedroom, one slow step at a time. No shouting. No apology. Just retreat. And me? I stood there. Alone. Finally. But still not free. She came home, without saying a word. My silent response the next day left her shattered. That night, the silence didn't just return, it multiplied. Every creak in the floorboards sounded louder. Every tick of the wall clock a small insult. I heard her moving around the bedroom, packing some things, though not in a decisive way. More like someone trying to look busy while avoiding eye contact with their own reflection. I didn't ask if she was leaving. I didn't care. Or maybe I did, but I was too far past the point where asking would make a difference. Around 10 p.m., she reappeared in the hallway holding a duffel bag, makeup smeared from wiping her face too many times. She hovered near the door, pretending to fiddle with her phone. I knew she wanted me to say something, to ask where she was going, to beg her not to go, but I wasn't going to feed the part of her that craved that drama. I didn't even glance up from my book. When she finally spoke, her voice was hollow. "I'm staying at my sister's tonight." I nodded, didn't even fake concern. Just turned a page. "Can we talk tomorrow?" she added quickly, almost stumbling over the words. "Please." Still no reaction from me. She didn't deserve a yes or a no. She deserved to feel the weight of my silence the way I'd carried the weight of her neglect. The door closed behind her with a soft click. And just like that, she was gone. But the quiet didn't bring peace. It brought a sick feeling to my chest, like I'd amputated a limb infected too long. It was the right thing, but it still hurt. I sat for a while. Then I stood. I don't know what made me do it. Curiosity, instinct, maybe just old pain looking for proof. But I walked into the bedroom, the one she had claimed as her emotional bunker since the confrontation. The sheets were tossed, the air stale with perfume, and something else beneath it. I opened her nightstand drawer and found exactly what I didn't want to find: a burner phone. Cheap. Plastic. Not hers. Hidden under a worn paperback she never finished. I turned it on. No passcode. The messages were all there. Him. Spencer. Dozens of texts. Some flirty. Some deeply emotional. Some worse. My heart sank with every scroll. He told her he missed her skin. She told him she wished she could fall asleep on his chest without guilt. He sent a photo from her office. He'd been there. My office too, technically. My name still funded the rent. But the one that really broke me? It wasn't even about the affair. It was her message from 2 weeks ago. "He's too soft. I need someone who can actually handle me." I sat down slowly, phone still glowing in my hand. I read it again. Too soft. So that's what I'd been reduced to. Not kind. Not loyal. Not dependable. Soft. I thought I was being patient. Thought I was holding our lives together with invisible thread, silently absorbing her distance so she wouldn't have to carry it. But in her eyes, I was just spineless. A placeholder. Something to step over. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there in the half-empty bed, replaying every moment I thought had meant something. Every kiss that must have been staged. Every smile that was probably already fading before I saw it. She thought I was soft. She hadn't seen anything yet. She came home without saying a word. My silent response the next day left her shattered. By morning, I had a plan. Not revenge, not in the fire and smoke way people expect, but something colder. Something that lives in the silence. I didn't want to ruin her life. I just wanted her to see it. See what she broke. See what she lost. See the version of me she took for granted quietly stepping out of reach. I spent most of the day cleaning. Not because the apartment was messy, but because I wanted every inch of it to feel foreign to her when she returned. I packed her coffee mugs, the framed photo from her graduation, the stack of magazines she never read. Boxed. Labeled. Gone from sight. I changed the Wi-Fi password. Deactivated the joint streaming accounts. Removed her fingerprint from the smart lock. I even replaced the welcome mat. The one she picked out with the quote, "Home is where the chaos is." Fitting, in hindsight. The new one was plain black. No words. Just a boundary. Around noon, I took the burner phone and slipped it into a padded envelope, along with a single printed screenshot. Her message about me being too soft. I didn't include a letter. Didn't need one. I addressed it to Spencer's office, no return name. Let him read it. Let him know the version of her he was getting. Then I went to my laptop, pulled up our shared cloud drive, and began deleting the photos. Not angrily. Not all at once. Just deliberately. One memory at a time. Every beach day, anniversary dinner, blurry selfie from the early days, gone. And I watched as the drive shrank. 5 gigabytes. 4. 3. like watching love drain out of a body. But I left one folder untouched. A private one I created that morning, titled simply, "What You Didn't Notice." Inside were files she never knew existed. Screenshots of our budget spreadsheet showing how I covered every bill the past 6 months while she needed space to figure things out. A saved audio recording of her laughing with Spencer on speakerphone when she thought I wasn't home. A copy of the email I found in her drafts, where she started applying to jobs in another city. Jobs that never included me. This wasn't spite. It was preservation. A digital mirror held up to the version of her that would try, years from now, to paint herself as the victim. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to accuse. I was just going to show her, quietly, completely, and without asking for her permission. At 5:41 p.m., the lock clicked. She was back. No knock. No text warning. Just walked in like nothing had changed, like she hadn't disappeared into the arms of another man 2 nights ago. She looked around, and I saw it hit her. The mat. The boxes. The empty frames. Her eyes darted toward the bookshelf. Then the kitchen. Then to me, standing calmly in the center of it all, a coffee in one hand, the lease termination in the other. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. This time, I was the silence. And it swallowed her whole. "I don't understand," she said, voice cracking. What is this?" I handed her the envelope from the lawyer. "Ellis, I thought we said we'd talk." "We did," I said. "But then you left again." And I realized, I've been talking to someone who was already gone. Her lips quivered. "Please, don't do this." "I'm not doing anything," I said softly. "I'm just cleaning up, like you said I should." Her breath hitched. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." "No," I said, "but you meant for me to tolerate it." That's when she started to cry. But it wasn't the kind that gets sympathy. It was the kind people cry when they realize they've run out of second chances. And still, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move toward her. I didn't say I loved her. I just let her cry alone, the way I had felt alone for months in the same room. She came home expecting an argument. She left realizing she'd lost the war without a single punch thrown. She came home without saying a word. My silent response the next day left her shattered. She sat on the floor for nearly half an hour after I told her it was over. Legs folded, shoulders trembling, eyes red but silent. I didn't gloat. I didn't smirk. I just stood by the window, watching the light shift across the floorboards. It wasn't rage I felt. It wasn't even sadness anymore. It was something deeper, something quieter, like walking out of a burning building and realizing you can still breathe. Eventually, she stood up, wiped her face with the sleeve of her hoodie, and whispered, "What happens now?" "You move out by the end of the week," I said gently. "The rest is up to you." She nodded slowly. She looked smaller now, not in a pitiful way, but in a human way. The pedestal I'd put her on had vanished, and what stood in front of me was just a person. Flawed, fragile, and no longer mine to carry. She walked into the bedroom and quietly closed the door. I didn't follow. The next few days passed like a slow breath. I slept better, deeper. I made music playlists I hadn't touched in years. I called an old friend I'd pushed away when the relationship had consumed everything. I took long walks without checking my phone. I finally cleaned out the garage. Lorna moved out that Thursday. She didn't ask for help. She didn't speak much. But before she left a letter on the counter. I didn't read it for 2 weeks. When I finally did, it was short. Just 5 lines. "You were always good to me. I was too blind to see it. You didn't deserve what I did. I hope you find someone who notices you. I'm sorry I didn't." I didn't cry. Not because it didn't matter, but because I'd already cried enough for the both of us. Months later, I met someone new. I wasn't looking. I wasn't even trying. She laughed at the worst jokes, didn't hide her phone, and listened, really listened, when I spoke. She asked questions no one else had ever thought to ask, like what I dreamed of doing when I was 8, like what song I secretly hated but pretended to like because it played at our wedding. And one day, while we were walking downtown, she squeezed my hand and said, "You're not soft. You're just kind. The world needs more of that." And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen. I felt free.